Welcome back to Ask the Educator, a podcast for all professionals involved in medical device processing and sponsored by Healthmark Industries. The education team here at Healthmark has 280 years of combined experience in areas ranging from sterile processing, endoscopy, OR, biomed, to hospital and industry leadership. Our goal is to leverage our collective experience to answer one of your questions each episode, giving you the practical tips you need to succeed in the evolving world of device processing. My name is Kevin Anderson, clinical educator here at Healthmark, and I will be your host. Let's get started. All right, welcome back, everyone. This is your host, Kevin Anderson here. Today, I will be joined by Stephen Kovach. I'm really excited about our topic today because I've learned a lot about this since joining Healthmark, and I just think it's a very important topic. So for this episode, we want to answer a two-part question, and this is going to be around ultrasonic cleaning. The first question is, what is cavitation? And the second question will be, how do we know that the ultrasonic has adequate cavitation? So Stephen, if you could help with us, the first question, what is cavitation in the first place?
Okay, Kevin, to get into that definition, I think we should set the table and say, here in the U.S., we follow ANSI/AAMI ST79. And within that document, they have a section on ultrasonic cleaning. And it states that depending on the type of sonic cleaner you have, you should perform tests each day the sonic is used. And they spell out three different types of tests. One, test for cavitation of the ultrasonic bath. Two, to check for soil removal of external surfaces in the ultrasonic bath. And three, tests for soil removal internal for lumens within the bath. We know we buy a sonic for its deep cleaning ability, and it's the cavitation that provides the deep cleaning. So we wonder, how do you meet these requirements? And so this gets to your first question. What is cavitation? Cavitation is really something very simple to understand. It's a cleaning process. It starts with these piezoelectric transducers, which vibrate. They have a diaphragm, and that turns them into a sound wave that goes through the liquid. And then the parts that are put in are clean. Now, these can be put on the bottom of the tank, side of the tank. They even have like a long bullet tube that goes in it. But it creates these bubbles. And as they get bigger and bigger and they reach a certain pressure, they don't explode and go boom. They implode, and that imploding creates like little micro suction little things, pulling all the dirt in that off the surfaces or inside a lumen or wherever it's at. And there's many factors that affect cavitation, from the type of cleaning solution you use, because cleaning solution lowers surface tension. And when you lower surface tension, you can increase your ability to create the cavitation in the bubbles. So that's why you use a certain detergent. Temperature and all that comes into play. So you want to make sure that you are specifically testing for cavitation by itself. And why is that important? I want you to think, Kevin, of a tank, just your manual tank you're cleaning. And doing your manual process, you put enzymes in it. Think of now your sonic tank. It's the exact same thing, but transducers have been added. So if those transducers aren't working, it just becomes an expensive soaking tank. So you buy the sonic for its ability to create cavitation. So thus, you need to check for, is it really producing cavitation? Because if not, it is just an expensive soaking tank. Did that make sense to you, Kevin?
That definitely makes sense. And so that leads into the second question. So how do we know that the ultrasonic has adequate cavitation?
Yeah, well, that's the issue. Is there's a lot of commercial products out there, and some products don't have any scientific data or peer-reviewed literature. And there's one that basically has it all, and that is the Sonocheck. But what's very important is that you want to make sure you check for cavitation. You can do it with an ultrasonic probe, or when you read the IFU for these different products, they're saying they test for all parameters and they don't specifically do for cavitation. That's why the SonaCheck is so unique. It only tests for cavitation. And I wrote a paper, and it was in one of the AAMI journals, looking at all these different tests. And if people want a copy of it, we can send it to them. So here's what comes into play. Think of, some people just have a small tabletop. It's one level. It could be a small one like a jeweler or dentist use, and some have those size for their eye instruments. Or you have big units with big footprints, but they're just one tank. So within there, you're just putting in one tray or two trays. There's not a lot of other metal being put in. We know there are many things that affect cavitation, but there's three I want to focus on, because we're going to hit this multi-level, and this is very important. We get questions, and that's why we're doing this podcast, is they say, hey, I use your SonaCheck, and the top level of my 3-level isn't passing. How come this isn't working? And it goes back and forth. Well, besides the other factors of temperature and cleaning solution and duration or dwell time, is you have to take into account 3 other things in these multi-levels. One is, where are the placement of the transducers? The farther you are away from the transducer, the less cavitation energy will reach. So on a lot of these 3 levels, some only have it on the bottom, some put some on the bottom and the side, but there's still a big difference between the bottom, the middle, and the top. So that's factor 1. Factor 2 comes into the amount of mass or metal that's in there to begin with. It has to raise and lower, and it already has a basket in it. So we know the more mass you have, that also decreases the amount of cavitation energy that can be detected on each level. And here's the third one. Many of these, not all, but many of these have a plastic mold or block that you hook up your lumens to. That plastic absorbs and impedes the cavitation energy itself. So as you place your indicators in there, they might not change. And that is the difference, because some of these other indicators, they can come clean with just being in the presence of detergent. And they're telling you you have a cavitation when you might not have sufficient cavitation. Does that make some sense to you, Kevin? And how I'm trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together?
That does make sense. I think of this as a big eye opener, at least it was for me, because I see these questions come in and people are investing many, many, many thousands of dollars. Even one multi-level chamber ultrasonic will oftentimes cost over $100,000. And then these managers are calling and asking why either the second or third tier up isn't passing the test. As a former manager, I would use that to say, well, those certain levels aren't getting cavitation energy. I shouldn't be using them. So now basically I got this really expensive machine and I'm only using maybe the bottom level that's actually closest to the transducer and passing, or maybe the first and second level if the second level is passing. But that is a huge, huge deal to me. And I feel like, yeah, you explained it real well. I hope that, this makes sense to the listeners, because it was a huge, huge deal to me when I first learned about it, because I didn't have a multi-level ultrasonic in my department.
So, Kevin, here's a way that I believe we can help our listeners. We are pushing more towards a quality management system. And again, really want to congratulate Damian Berg and Richard Schul for ST90, the quality management. We have to start looking at sterile processing as science-based. And quality management is very important. People, when they buy their sterilizers, they do IQ, OQ, PQ, the installation, the operation, and performance qualification. The same thing should be done with the Sonic, and it should be put in the request for proposal that these steps are taken and they must pass certain tests. Because when you're doing your IQ and your OQ, you have to make sure that you're getting cavitation and everything at each level. And the SonaCheck allows you to do that. And thus that can be used in those two steps. And then it's used as a PQ step, because your performance qualification is what you're trying to prove every day. Is this working? Am I getting enough cavitation? If not, what is wrong? And we know that people can place it in certain areas, because we can also prove in a single level one, if you take a tray of instruments and put a massive instruments there and you don't spread them out properly and you don't open them up properly, you can put SonaChecks around those instruments and even in the very middle and run it for some people 3, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It might not pass in the very middle. Why? Because there's too much mass. They didn't spread the instruments out and open them up. So again, part of this gets back to quality management systems and putting in place and knowing what a test tells you when it passes and it fails, and make sure there's clinically relevant and evidence-based products. That helps you ensure the equipment is performing properly. And people need to remember, some tests are designed to challenge the operational level of the cleaning equipment. Others test specific parameters of the cleaning process. And then they try to say, well, this covers everything. Well, no, that's not true. And that's why many of these don't have a lot of data behind it, because I did show that many of these tests that say they show for cavitation, I can show when there's no cavitation, they get completely clean. So people are getting a mixed signal. So we must remind people to start looking and thinking of quality management systems. I'm getting a little long-winded there. I'm like you, Kevin. I love talking Sonics. So I think I've tied it all together. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you did beautifully. And you're right. We are running out of time, but I think that we gave our listeners a lot to think about in terms of their ultrasonic and why they should be testing for cavitation and what to look for even. I would love to hear back from our audience on this one. So if you have any further questions regarding cavitation, send your questions in at asktheeducator@hmark.com. We'd love to interact about this one. It's really, really important. So thank you, Stephen, for joining me and answering these questions for us.
You're welcome. Anytime, Kevin. Hopefully we'll do some more Sonic podcasts, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, thanks.
All right, let's recap the show. Cavitation. It's the vacuum or suction-like force that is produced in your ultrasonic bath by the transducers. This is what helps clean inside all the nooks and crannies of your medical devices. Remember, Amy recommends the testing of all 3 ultrasonic functions: cleaning inside the lumens or flushing, and cavitation, all a part of your quality management system. The SonaCheck is the only product that specifically tests for cavitation. Lastly, remember there's 3 factors that affect the efficacy of cavitation in your ultrasonic: metal mass, plastic materials like the lumen connection modules, and distance from the transducers. Make sure before you purchase an ultrasonic cleaner that you know that it can pass the cavitation test throughout the bath. Thanks again for listening, and if you are finding this podcast helpful, please give us a rating and a review on whatever platform you listen to the podcast. All opinions expressed on this show are those of the presenters. Before using any medical device, it is important to review the device manufacturer's instructions for use.